ahead and turn that on. And we're off and running. Tonight is the discussion of the annual report projects. They are located, described both in the syllabus and on Blackboard. There's a written portion, oral portion, totaling 25%, 12.5% each. And as some of you know, the written report is due midnight of the last day of classes, which was 2 weeks from yesterday. So on the 26th at midnight, the written paper is due. For the online class, the oral presentation must be recorded in Zoom and posted by the Friday before classes ends. So if we're talking the 23rd is when the online classes will have their oral report due, and then you need at least two to three people, and more, the more the merrier, that you comment on after observing their presentations. But your written report is still due Monday, the 26th at midnight as well. I'm available for questions, feedback, comments, if you want to talk about anything, if there's some calculations in question, if you're trying to figure out how to make decisions on what we're talking about, I'm at your service and happy to provide. And to Brazia, if you'd like to come on camera, we'd love to see you as well as hear you when the time comes, if you're available and able. Before I actually go into the, I'm gonna go on to Blackboard and we'll take a look at the assignment and we'll see where to post things and put things. Any specific questions you have? Anything come to mind? I'm not hearing a heck of a lot right now. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go into Blackboard. I'm going to share my screen. Custom shares, portion of screen. And on Blackboard, if you go to the discussion section and you flow down, we've got all these good discussion posts going on. It's also where the online class will post their oral presentation available for review. So here's the annual report assignment. And hopefully you can all see that. Okay. Last 2 weeks of classes, more lenient, easier grading, as I've mentioned, for earlier presenters. And the final paper is due the last day of classes. So the presentations in the live class will start next week, possibly Monday, but definitely by Wednesday. And then we have Wednesday, Friday, and the following Monday for presentations. That's what we're going to be presenting on. The key is answering two questions. Would you work for or would you invest in this company? That's all you need to answer. Except you need more than one slide that says yes, no, yes, yes, or no, no. You're going to need to support what your conclusion is based on your analysis. And the key here is looking at the company, and I'll go through the actual details of the assignment in a minute, but you're going to do an in-depth look at the company, cover to cover, read on the annual report. You're going to do some analysis, financial analysis, and based on that criteria, you are going to defend your decision. I get the question, should I put everything that's on my written report into my oral presentation? And the short answer is should obviously be no, because it won't all fit. You're not going to put two balance sheets, two income statements, vertical analysis of everything in your PowerPoint or whatever other tool you might be using for presentation. You're going to want to present and extract the data that supports your case. And you very well may go on to Glassdoor or Indeed and actually do some due diligence and research. Would I work for the company? You're going to look at some reviews of other folks that have examined the company and taken a look and said, yep, they're good to invest in, not good. Now, you can't just trust their judgment because I'm going to be asking for your analysis. And your analysis will be a series of calculations on your company in an industry and on at least two competitors in that industry. So when you're looking at companies, you're going to be able to say, well, my company's got the highest net income percentage and the fastest growth rate. or it doesn't. Again, that will help reach the conclusion of, is this a good place to invest time, money, maybe even work for? And we'll talk more about that. So individually, you'll be presenting recorded oral presentation. We'll be recording in class if you desire. That's going to be optional. I encourage it actually, so you can actually see yourself present. Those are actually good things to do. The 2 grades end up being average, 12.5% on the written, 12.5% on the oral. I do encourage creative presentations. I've had interviews with the board of directors. I've had games that people have created and they haven't done anything with a PowerPoint. I've had people go in and make summary cards that they distribute, Jeopardy type games. Other things, I would encourage creativity. It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint. Okay? But at a minimum, you need to present your project without reading a report. So standing up in front of a class or in front of a camera and reading your report verbatim is not going to help you. You can have note cards, you can have reference tools, and you can even read your own slides, as long as you don't read your slides verbatim. And careful about not having too many words on the slide. You've heard of death by PowerPoint before, and we try to avoid death by PowerPoint. Prezi is a good tool to use too, by the way, PowerPoint or Prezi, to aid in your presentation. But the more creative you get, the better grade you will be. The written report, 5 to 10 pages of analysis and summary. That's double space pages. Okay, and everybody's played the games with margins, and plays the game top, bottom, left, right, font. You know, I don't need a 24-point font. Typically, I'll have a 12-point font. But what I want is some decent analysis. Somebody said, well, I get penalized if I do it in under 5 pages. Not specifically penalized under 5 pages, but being able to accomplish the requirements below, starting with number 1 in your paper with under 5 pages, will be very, very difficult. Okay, Faraji, you're on. Got a question?
Would the balance sheet, like the pictures of the balance sheets or other charts or information, will be considered within the 5 pages?
Okay, 5 to 10 pages plus appendices. And if you wanted to put a balance sheet or income statement, that would be an appendix. That's not included in the 5 to 10 pages. But it might be stronger not to have a picture of balance sheet, because I can look on Edgar and find them too, but have an analysis that says, here's my income statement for past 3 years, and here's my vertical analysis for all 3 years. And you could probably do that in 10 minutes if you when you get good with Excel. And you can have vertical analysis, 100% net sales number, all the other percentages going down, and you look at that and say, great, that might be a great table. And in your paper, you're going to say, well, as you can see from my comparative income statements on Exhibit 3, the trend is the net income percentage was 2%, then 3%, then 5%. I like that. That's a positive trend, especially since their competitors are pretty steady state around 2.5, 3. They're not going up. This company's doing well. So that's the vertical analysis, common size statements. You might have another set of statements that are the trend analysis. You look at the trend of sales from year 1 to year 1, 2 to year 3 and say, well, it's going up 5%, down 10%, up 15%. And again, you can do that for net income. You can do it for expenses. You can do it for gross profit. Whatever is in your vertical analysis, and your vertical can go into a horizontal analysis or trend analysis to see what the trends are. And you can do it with a balance sheet. 100% is total assets for vertical, and net sales is 100% vertical on an income statement. Horizontal is trend. Balance sheet gives you 2 years, but you're going to, by the way, need to go to at least 2 10Ks for some of this analysis. Because as you know, inventory turns, receivable turns, they need 2 years of inventory, or 2 years of cost of goods sold, or 2 years to track, 2 years of receivables to calculate one ratio. So you say, I need average receivables or average inventory. I got to go in and say, oh, well, I got to get last year's and this year. So I'm going to have 2 ratios and see what the changes are. And again, you're going to be doing analysis. You're going to focus on your company, but you're going to be calculating a bunch of numbers for 2 other companies as well. And make sure it's in your industry. Just because they're high tech doesn't mean everybody in high tech is in the same industry. Alphabet is not in the same industry as eBay. because Google and eBay sell differently, different services, different products, different offerings. Appendices, calculations, articles, tables, charts and graphs are urged and encouraged. Pie chart, line chart, bar chart, those are all, again, pictures do say 1,000 words. And those pictures will help make your case and again, show trends. Bibliography, yes, you need to include a bibliography. That's an additional page as well. And that's going to be, yep, Edgar is going to be on the bibliography. And you might have some websites on the bibliography, some articles you read in the bibliography. Okay. Again, the bottom line is you are analyzing the company to support your conclusions. Would I invest or would I buy? And you might saying, you know what, great company, but they're already maxed out. Their price to earnings ratio is sky high. I wouldn't invest in them because I think they're at the top of their game and the only place to go is down, even though they might be a solid company. Or you might be saying, hey, these guys have a track record of growth, made more billionaires or millionaires than any other company, and I wouldn't bet against them.
Right.
Another question? I heard a voice. I heard a sign. But, all right. And then for the online class, you're going to be responsible for reviewing classes presentations. By the way, your written report, please do proofread and use Grammarly.com. I use Grammarly.com. I just sent a letter to President Carter. Before I send an email, what do? I put it in Grammarly. I don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be embarrassed, nor do you want your grade to be affected adversely. I'll get students say, so how do you know if I use Grammarly? Well, Grammarly will catch the there, and there, the two, and two. It'll catch things in grammar level that are pretty obvious, or misspellings that might be pretty obvious. So Grammarly is not a bad habit to get into. Anytime you're sending a mass email to more than 5 people, to a superior, to a faculty member or a professor, or anything you're being graded for. Great tool, and it's free. So it's like LinkedIn is free, Grammarly is free, lots of good tools out there. All right. By the way, it's not too late to change. Some of you might have done some analysis in previous discussion points and said, you know what, I looked at this company, but you know what, I'm interviewing with this other company who has a competitor that's publicly traded, or they may be publicly traded. No, I'm interviewing a Sunoco. And I originally chose to do Ford because I like cars, or Harley Davidson because I like bikes. But I changed my mind. I want to do Sunoco because I'm interviewing with them. And I've said it in class to some of you, you will differentiate yourself from 99% of your competition on an interview if you read the annual report of the company itself or of a competitor in the industry, if they're not publicly traded, and you'll get terminology, you get analysis. You can say, I'm not working for Best Buy, but I'm working for a company like Best Buy that sells hi-fi and stereos and washers and dryers. And you do their analysis and say, wait a minute, they slumped this past year. Their profits went way down. Did that happen here? How impressive would that be to an interviewer to say, oh, wait a minute, you researched some of our competitors and you know what they're doing? And then you do some research on us and you know what we're doing? That's pretty powerful in an interview. That's due diligence to the max. Again, you don't need to use those hard copies that you got. The hard copies you got in the mail, those are for your reference, for tools. We're using them in class as reference, looking at a balance sheet, looking at an income statement, finding the auditors, doing some analysis, doing some calculations, debt ratios, inventory ratios, receivables ratios, whatever it was we were doing. Yep, nice to have something in hand. When we looked at the equity section, when I talked about shares outstanding, and then shares authorized, and then issued and outstanding, those are all things that are mentioned on the balance sheet, on most balance sheets and on the 10K. So, and the nice thing about Edgar is all publicly traded companies are there and easy to find, easy to analyze, easy to pull all the financials into Excel in one fell swoop. And I'll demonstrate that again by the end tonight. Another question? Okay. All right, so if we're looking at publicly traded, by the way, I get the question, well, can I do Adidas? Okay, German company. Can I do Mercedes-Benz? Can I do Honda, Toyota? Can I do Kia? Well, if you can get the financials, which actually you probably can, These ratios don't matter, whether it's Japanese yen, US dollars, or euros. The ratios are going to be percentages. Percentages, dollars and euros cancel out. Trends, percentages, all that dollars will cancel out. So if you want to do some international, you want to do Monster, that's not domestic. All right. And then you start doing some other beverages, high power beverages. That's your choice. But make sure you can get a full set of financials for any company you choose, because you need to do that analysis. Part two, you're going to read the thing cover to cover. You want to record your impressions. Overwhelming. You know what? Having taken this class, I actually understood more than I thought I would. They embellish this. Their financials, their trends are way down, but the CEO is saying how wonderful they are. It doesn't add up. I'm confused. And well, they're trying to put their best foot forward. Or maybe you're surprised by all the things that they talked about that could go wrong. Or maybe it's missing some elements. So your overall impressions. Also, why did you select the industry or the company? Maybe you've got a family member that works in the industry and say, you know what, that'd be kind of cool to be able to talk to them during the summer break, or that's where I want to get an internship. Okay. Auditor's opinion letter. It's usually right before the financial statement, sometimes right after. And who the auditor is, one of the big four probably. And what does it say? Well, they're pretty boilerplate. If you look at three companies, you're going to see, examine the records in accordance with GAAP for these years ending X1, X2. In our opinion, you'll see those three words. It's an opinion statement. The books are cool. They look okay. Nothing that jumped out at us. No exceptions. Okay. That's called an unqualified opinion. You want an unqualified opinion. You don't want qualifications. The qualification is, we reviewed the books, everything's cool, except for we think they're going to violate the going concern. Like we think they're going out of business in a year. Okay. Or they're using cash basis instead of accrual basis. That's a violation of GAAP. Or they recorded inventory in a fashion not acceptable in a strange way, or the depreciation doesn't match. Whatever the qualifications, that's bad news. Audits with qualifications are red alerts to investors saying, warning, warning. We're looking and saying, why aren't you in accordance with GAAP? Where's the hole? Why are you deviating from the gold standard? Part three, okay, and by the way, does it inspire trust, accuracy, reliability, excitement? And if it does, why or why not? You can say, yes, it's exciting. Okay, I find that hard to believe. 10Ks are usually not exciting. Although, by the way, Adidas has a really exciting 10K, and it's tabbed, and it's really well organized. Good German efficiency. I don't mean to stereotype, but that's a good one to get. But you're looking and saying, okay, what did it tell me? This was kind of cool or not? This is kind of interesting or not? What did you find interesting? What did you find not interesting? Anything that surprised you? You're reading through this and this thing jumped out at me. Why were they making money for 2 years in a row and then they lost buku bucks this current year? By the way, you should be able to analyze that by looking at income statement and saying, let's see, comparatively, they were doing fine here, percentages here, yep, here. Oh, wait a minute. What's this tax adjustment? What's this leasehold assets that they acquired? Why do these expenses jump up? Oh, they were acquired or they had an acquisition. All right, sales jumped because we merged with somebody else. And you're going to be, and the reading cover to cover will tell you those stories. You're a storyteller. You're going in and telling a story of your business. Leon, what you got?
Yes, sir. So would Lockheed Martin as an aerospace company be a bit too far-fetched to do an analysis on, or is that?
Be a great company. And you got some wonderful competitors, General Dynamics and whatever it is in the space. By the way, if you want to find out who competitors are, Uncle Google's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Who are the competitors of Walmart? Oh, who are the competitors of Amazon? Who are the competitors of Lockheed Martin? Great. Yeah. And anybody that's publicly traded is fair game. By the way, not all companies are going to have inventory. Walmart has a bunch of inventory, but I'll tell you, Marriott doesn't have inventory. They might call their rooms inventory, but they're not selling their rooms. They're renting rooms. I'm saying, I think I'll buy the bed where I stay at the Marriott. You're not buying the bed. You're renting it. You're using it. So the key is be aware that even though we ask for inventory turnover, there might not be a lot of inventory or receivables turnover. We talked about this in class. McDonald's, The McDonald's corporate is a franchisor, they have receivables. But if you get to some local restaurants, they're all cash. I can't do drive-through McDonald's and say, just put it on my tab. I wish I could, but that's something that they don't have a lot of receivables from their customers. So receivable turnovers might be meaningless. Walmart is distorted. Walmart has a bunch of sales and they do have a bunch of receivables, but the reality is receivable turnover should be net credit sales over average receivables. Well, you don't see net credit sales, you see net sales. And that net sales includes cash sales and credit sales. So when you look at a number like that and it looks way off base, it is off base. So don't be afraid. If you bump into some numbers that sound pretty crazy and you want to talk about them with me, email, text, call, let me know what's going on, and we'll have a discussion and see what's logical. And be careful, make sure if you're gonna put percentages, you need to multiply by 100. Okay? And if you're doing a return on asset, return on equity, that's a percentage. 5% return, 7% return. Net income percentage is not 0.03, it's 3%. Gross profit percentage is not 0.43, but 43%, or whatever the numbers turn out to be. As we said, report anything that surprised you as you're reading. You're going to read the notes cover to cover too. And you just might surprise yourself. There may be things in there saying, oh, we talked about LIFO, FIFO. Oh, they're talking about this accelerated depreciation stuff. Oh, the allowance for doubtful accounts. I see, okay, allowance, that kind of fits into place. You've come a long way this semester. We've covered a lot of ground. It is a language, accounting is a language of business. If there are items that you feel are missing or areas you'd like to see more information, you might say, you know what? I never saw how many total employees they have. One of the ratios we don't talk about is revenue per employee. I personally like that ratio. You know, if you got 30,000 per employee, you know, your employees aren't going to be making much over 30 grand. If you got 2 million per employee, you got a lot of space, high-tech companies to play with. In a retail, they may be talking about shelf space or display space or square footage of the store. So dollars per square foot revenue. That's a retail measurement. And that might be in your annual report. So there may be some cool measurements that are there or some that are missing. I want to know what their employee turnover is. What's their turnover rate? How many every year? 5, 10, 15, 20, 50%, 2%? Okay, how about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI? It's now DEI and B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I'd like to know more about, you know, the picture I saw of their board, not real diverse there, or maybe it really is. And I was impressed, or I wasn't impressed. So those are all considerations when you look through there, see what jumps out at you. Okay. Obviously, you go to Edgar. I say at least 2 other companies or 3 even better, and get the latest financial for your specific company. Now, you're going to be looking for a 10-K annual report. You might also look for the most recent 10-Q to see if things are consistent. They may have some things that popped up. The 10-K is where you need to focus. That's going to be your annual analysis. That's going to be percentages. But the 10-Q is also handy to look at. You can skim that or read it as deeply as you want. Then we're doing ratios and trend. Minimum of the following financial ratios for 3 years. Current ratio, inventory turn, receivable turn, debt to asset, profit margin, that's net profit, ROA, ROE. 3-year trend for at least 5 items over a minimum 3-year period. Something on the balance sheet, something on the income statement, you're going to do at least 5. Okay. Profits, assets, sales, gross profits, or gross margins, same thing. Anything that catches your eye. Present your income statement and balance sheet for at least 2 years using common size or vertical analysis. I'm going to take this out. The almanac, they don't have it in the library, so don't worry. But you're going to compare ratios. I asked them to order the latest version. There is no latest version. It's online. It's buku bucks. So so don't worry about that. But you might want to see if you can get some standard ratios. Just do a Google search, and you may come up with some. Obviously, you would put it in a source in your bibliography. You'd mention the source of where you got it. But you'll be comparing to other active companies in the industry as well. So you don't need this almanac there. Okay. But compare other companies. If you want to do a SWOT analysis, you're welcome to do so. It is extra credit. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Finally, you want to answer the question, would I
can't find
consider working for or investing in this company? Is
I'll look for the warranty how you told me to.
that for me? That's another conversation.
I'll look for the big one.
Lady, I was saying.
Big one.
Okay, if you can go, if you're not talking to me, please go on mute. I would appreciate it. All right, final questions. Would I consider working for or investing in this company and industry? And then address why or why not. And make sure to include in your bibliography all the sources of information. Chances are it's going to be more than Edgar. Chances are you're going to be doing some digging and some research. If you wait till the night before, if you wait till Sunday night to present on Monday and submit your written report, not a good thing. So be forewarned. That's the assignment. That's the gist of it. I'm going to go into a live demonstration on Edgar. And there is a recording, by the way, in Blackboard as well. All the lectures are recorded. Edgar's recorded as well. Anything on your mind that you'd like a little more deeper discussion of?
Okay, so just one more time for me, sir. For the written analysis, when is that due again? I'm sorry.
The last day of classes, which is Monday, the 26th, the written report is due at midnight. Now, the reason I have on the online class, the assignments, the oral report due by the Friday before that, so that A, people can comment. B, you might have some gross errors on there. You might have screwed something up. Not fatal, you're not going to fail if you mess up with a ratio. But the earlier you present in the live classes and the earlier you display online in the online class, the more chance you have to catch up. I used to collect a draft of the report at the time you present, but I don't do that anymore because I want to give you maximum time to get your report organized as you see fit. But you're going to take it and you're going to say, okay, here, I did all this analysis. I'll draft my report. I'll then summarize it, make my oral report. And while I'm doing that, I get some other ideas. And I'm going to put that back in my written report. Or other people comment and say, that's pretty cool. Did you think about this? I mean, and you want to give some constructive comment other than, yeah, cool presentation. You need a little more depth saying, what I liked about you dove deeper into this. You know what? It might be interesting if you also dove deeper into that. So does that answer your question, Ian?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, good. Thank you for asking. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Or two questions. I have two questions.
Okay, we're not in quota. You can have as many as you want.
So how long do you want our oral presentations to be? Or do you have a limit?
Fair question. Basically 4 to 8 minutes is what you should budget.
Okay.
Now, some of you may come in, it's like saying, you're not gonna have one slide that says, yes, I'd work for them, and yes, I'd invest. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed my presentation. That's not gonna cut it. You need enough, and you don't need all this stuff, 1 through 9, 1 through 8 here on your PowerPoint. You want enough background information, actually kind of cool, some history, some interesting facts. You might want to color the presentation with some things that would be attractive to your audience. But then you're going to get to an now saying, these 3-4 ratios jumped out at me.
Okay.
These trends jumped out at me. And again, I don't want a full balance sheet or income statement or full analysis like that because the numbers will be too small. No one's going to be able to read that. So less is better. Now, you may or may not have heard that when you do a PowerPoint presentation, you usually budget about 1 minute per slide.
Right.
So you say, wait a minute, in 7-8 minutes, that's 7 or 8 slides. On the other hand, you may be speed speaking and do 30 seconds a slide. But you want to make sure, and you know what, the best thing to do is practice.
True.
Practice presentation. And when you present, you're not coming in a pair of cutoffs and a torn t-shirt. You want to be business casual. You are a professional. You're presenting to a class of fellow professionals. And you don't need a shirt and tie and suit, although you can. I've seen that. But you also don't want to be casual and wear a Harley Davidson t-shirt unless you're doing Harley Davidson. Okay. Or a Nike shirt and short or, outfit and sneakers unless you're doing Nike. But again, you want to be in format, even if you're online, it is a professional presentation.
Okay. That
Does
makes sense.
that cover where you, good question.
Yes, it does. And then my second question was basically, so could I consider the oral presentation like a shortened version of the written one?
Yeah, it's a highlights. It's like a highlights reel. Not a
Mhm.
bloopers reel, but a highlights reel where you're gonna say, oh, yep, I got all this data. And I pulled out, and in my report, I supported it here, here, and here. When you're presenting, you're saying, well, I support it here and here, and this is why that jumped out. This is what I like. This is what supports my conclusions.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
but you're not gonna do 10 pages worth in a 8 slide PowerPoint.
Right.
So, and you get, the tendency is to cram too much. You can't put 2 gallons of milk in a gallon jug. People
Right.
don't say milk, though, do they? Anyways, you get the idea. You can't do all that stuff that you would have in your report. So it is a highlights of the analysis that says, here's where they're strong, or here's where they're not strong, and this is why.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. It's supposed to make sense. Thank you. Ian, did you have another question?
I think I got it answered, but actually, one just popped up in my head. So online students have the leisure of either presenting physically in class or just recording themselves online. Is that correct?
Yes, you can come to class as well. The same way you can come to class to take the final, if you saw my last email. If you'd rather come to class and be in for finals, you're good to go. That's your choice.
Okay.
But yeah,
And
but- go ahead,
no, go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry.
please.
Yep. So the final, if you were to take it online, is it going to be like a lockdown browser or?
It will not be a lot. Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
Just to be determined. It's likely, but I'm not positive yet. I've had mixed luck with lockdown browsers. So, another question. Take it away,
I have a question.
please do.
Okay, so on the syllabus, it's this is being recorded, right? Because I came in late because I'm at work,
This is recorded as requested. I have it. Yes,
and it will be posted.
it will be posted. I will be putting it in all 3 of Blackboard in the announcement section. I just put an announcement in this week about the finals and about the project, but I'll also put in I'll have this recording available to you in the announcements.
Okay, great. Okay, so I was looking at the part it says number 2, where you also got to look at reports by the CEO, the president, and the auditor, and
Yeah.
opinion letter. I cannot find that for nothing. I went on the side on the tabs with the yellow. I looked through all the reports. I don't know if I overlooked or what, and I cannot find them at all. So there's a specific tab that it's under.
Well, let's do some show and tell. I mean, then the next step, I'm going to go live on Edgar and we're going to play a little bit. But I want to go ahead. So I will address that. And if I don't, let me know and I'll follow up with that. Other questions before we
Okay.
actually go live? Go ahead, Olivia. I'm sorry. You're all set?
Yeah, that's the only question right now.
Okay, thank you.
So I am struggling because I like stuff to be very cut and dry and like have a clear rubric. Is there any like past projects that were presented just in past classes that made a good grade, but like you could show us maybe just to help give me an idea of what it needs to look like?
Fair question. I actually, I have an oral rubric. I do not have a written rubric. I usually put the oral in the syllabus, but I think I took it out of for this semester. I will post the oral rubric that goes for that in the same place that I put the announcement, the recording. I do not have papers to share at this point, or presentations to share at this point. So it is going to be on you to kind of determine, okay, cut and dry, you have the content, you draw the conclusions, you have supporting arguments for your conclusions, that's the project. And that will help you make the grade. And just to be aware, very few people do very poorly on this thing. I mean, if the grammar's lousy, if there's no supporting, if the calculations are so far afield, okay, grades aren't good. But if someone does a reasonable effort and does read cover to cover, understands their company, does some analysis, and understands the analysis they're talking about, then there's no reason why I'll tell you, it's mostly A's and B's that go out of here on the projects written and on the presentations. And that frankly, at 25% of your grade, that's actually helpful for many, not helpful for some, but the A students are going to get A's anyways. So chances are 25% with the final exam and this, that's going to take pretty positive dominant addition to the grade. Even those that are struggling at the CD level have been pulled up to B's and C's easily. So, but it does take some effort. Not something you're going to do the night before. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for asking. Other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, where I lost track. Okay, when it says on number 6, how we need to look at other companies, do you want us to mention those as well, like our findings?
Yep, I want you to actually do calculations, ratio analysis, horizontal and vertical analysis for other companies as well. Not as stringent as what you do for your company, but you're going to be picking out things to say, well, why would I invest in my company? Because they're better than these other guys. Oh, why are they better? Yeah, now you get some numbers that tell the story. So yes, you're going to be doing analysis of other companies, at least 2. It says 2, it says 3, but at least 2. And you're going to come through and say, my company shines or doesn't shine compared to these other companies. And actually, I think these might be a better investment than mine. So I probably wouldn't invest, or this is an industry I don't have faith in for the long term. I don't think the oil company is going to be around 20 years from now. I don't think high tech is going to go anywhere. I do think NFTs are going to be cool, or whatever it is. You're going to be some of this judgment calls comes outside the numbers. Some of this judgment call will be your gut feel on industry and gut feel on business long term, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year out. So that's how that goes. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, like say, okay, I'm doing Walmart. So say I would do something like Target or I guess Sam's or something like, even though it's not the same people fully.
You're right. And that's why I said earlier, do competitors, in Google. Who are the competitors of Walmart? And you're right. They'll probably come up with Target. They might come up with Amazon. They might come up with some other just department stores. Kmart has 2 left in the country, I think. I just was reading about.
Okay.
So-
And like compare.
But publicly traded. Now, as you know, Sam's is owned by Walmart. That's not going to help you. But Costco might be another one to include. So whatever the competitors are, pick a few competitors, do some analysis. You say, wait a minute, their inventory, Walmart has 30% of their balance sheet inventory, and their competitor has 40%. Well, the competitor has more stuff to sell than they do. A couple of years ago, Walmart fell off the wagon because they didn't have inventory, because if they don't have inventory, they can't sell. But their inventory turnover might be higher, which is better. So again, you start looking at those ratios, looking at the analysis and determining what's a good fit and what supports your case. Because I'm looking for reasoning. I'm looking for critical thinking and the thought process that says, I understand what these ratios mean. I mean, we reviewed them. There's some other guidebooks if you go in the syllabus. Actually, I'll go back to the syllabus now. I pulled up the syllabus here. Here's the project for the syllabus. But if you actually go in and you look at, in the beginning, some resources. So the syllabus has all this good stuff to go with it. Intro, extra credit, school of business, goals, course objectives. Okay, textbook and materials. So we got the textbook, but now when we go further down here, I actually put it in Blackboard. I put additional tools. Sorry for that. Yeah, I used to have it in the syllabus, but I moved it off the syllabus and into Blackboard. Tutors. Yeah. So let's go over to Blackboard. Go back into our discussion. So you've been through this before, okay? And you've seen some of the tools that you can use. So Morning Brew, CNBC, all right. Squawk, newsletters, Business Made Simple, so it's informational. A second. Scaffold. So if you go down here in discussion, and I did say that you need to post okay, annual report project. So you need to post here as well as any extra credits that you have get posted here as for discussion posts. But if you go to assignments, let's go over to assignments. A lot of discussions, which is showing you. I go down to assignments and chapter stuff. There's a homework connect. So if you're going here, and this is where you will post your annual report presentation and your written report. But I need from you, if you're doing a PowerPoint, I'm going to ask it here. If you're in the class that are recording, if you're online, I need it here as well. And then the written report will be submitted here. Okay. By the way, all your extra credit write-ups are here as well. Okay. Now, if we go to the discussions, sorry, the announcements. And we've got the 2 weeks left announcement, project and exam announcement. So we have some examples of project, first exam LinkedIn, course announcements, internship activity. Okay, this is, so I just was showing where you put your projects, your written reports, and where things go. I'm going to go actually I'm going to go live in Edgar right now. And we're going to take a look at a company. And if we go into Edgar, Google search on Edgar. And here, search and access. And we can do search by company name or fund name. So that's where I will go. Anybody have a company you want to take a look at?
All right, Boeing.
Harley Davidson?
Okay.
Good choice. All right. Now I will go ahead and we'll clear that. No, thanks. All right, let's look at Harley Davidson. If you knew the ticker symbol, you could type it in here. Also known as HOG, this Harley Davidson Credit Corp, Custom Funding Corp, but HOG is the one we're looking for. So I click on HOG, and one of the keys that you will see in the upper right-hand corner is something called Classic Version. I'm going to urge you to click on that because that's how you're going to get the Excel templates. And I'm going to do that right now. Classic Version is right here. And then when you say filing type, you typed in 10K, and hit return, it'll say nothing. The key here is 10-K or 10-Q. I do a 10K, there's our interactive data. So I got a document and I've got data. You could go into the document. I'll go there first. And then you see what's the largest file here. There's a text document, complete submission, and there's a HOG document, an XBRL up here. Let's go up to here. Let's see what this one looks like. Document. Loading inline form. So the two biggest were the top one and the bottom one. This is XBRL. It's probably not going to be one. Okay, there we go. So here's our 10K. This is the full version of the 10K. This is what you end up reading cover to cover. Juno Ave, Milwaukee. I used to teach motorcycle safety for Harley Davidson. All right, business risk factors, properties, legal proceedings. Part 2, market registrants, management discussion, MD&A. MD&A, item 7 is where the CEO's report you were asking about earlier, and where there's conversation about the company. Financial statements, item 8. Okay, and I mean, I'll go here to manage MD&A. Overview, the company's net income was 650 million or 419 per diluted share compared to 1.3 million the previous year. So that looks like a pretty good improvement. And or the previous year was pretty lousy. Financial and margin cycles, key factors in company supply chain, additional European tariffs, COVID pandemic, restructuring, LiveWire, their electric bike transaction, and going on down. So you're reading cover to cover this stuff. And this is some summary stuff. You really want to get to the actual financial statements, which is right before note 1. I'm going to go back up to the top. And if you go down here and say, all right, financial statements and sub data. So here we go. Reports of independent auditors. That's first. We mentioned that opinion of internal control, company's management responsible for maintaining, yada, yada. We have audited internal control based on criteria established, COSO framework, Ernst & Young. And here's the opinion letter. We have audited the company consolidated balance sheet of Harley-Davidson as of December 31st, 2021 and 2020, and related consolidated statements of operations, comprehensive income, shareholder equity, and cash flows for each of the 3 years of the period, yada, yada. Okay. The key words in here. Okay. We also have audited down here, as discussed. We conducted the audits in association with PCAOB, critical audits. There's some now we got a qualification. All right. So this is not this is a qualified report, not unqualified. So there were some qualifications, which is of interest, because if you look at the other companies, you'll say, oh, they're all pretty clean. They don't have any of the qualifications that this one had. Okay. So I'm going to go back to previous screen, and we're going to go over to, instead of looking at the 10K, which we are just looking at right now, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at interactive data. So the 10K interactive data, and you can get all the 10K details here. Here's a 10K, here's the cover, financial statements. Now, if I look at financial statements, I've got a consolidated statement of income, comprehensive income, which is not the one you want. It says comprehensive, stay away for now. Balance sheet parenthetical, cash flow, shareholders equity, and shareholders equity parenthetical. So let me look at a statement of income. Here's a 3-year income statement. 5.36 billion. Let's see. That's just in billions. Yep. No, we have down 4 billion, back up to 5.3 billion. Okay. I look at the bottom line, 423 million down to 2 million, back up to 650. They seem to have recovered pretty well. See, their earnings per share jumped. Now, I said use that classic version. If you look at View Excel document, which I'm going to go into right now, I just downloaded every one of these financial statements on a separate tab. So if I open up an Excel document, you'll see on screen Excel come to life with, and I'll show you the tabs at the bottom. So here it says enable editing, which I want to do. I want to be able to edit the spreadsheet. And if I look above, if you scroll down, move this down a little bit. Towards the bottom, you see cover page, you see audit information tab. Tells you who the auditors are. It's not the full report. You see statement of consolidated statements. Let's see what they are. Statement of income. So if I go here and I right now insert a column, And I say equals that slash that. I'm gonna change that some way. Yeah, Zoom actually has to put things in strange places. Okay. So I'm going to change my column display here to percentage. So display percentage. Okay. Now I'm going to also edit this formula that's in here. I'm going to keep $B, $4. I'm going to copy this formula down here. And I actually like having one decimal point personally, so I'm going to extend that. And there we go. So if I'm doing analysis, and I can do the same thing. So I can very quickly do 6. Let's do revenue B4 over B4. Sorry. We'll get there. All right, so I went ahead and I'm going to copy this formula also down here. So I quickly said, okay, I went from 60% of cost of goods sold to 60.8. So it looks like maybe supply chain, maybe some higher prices, but I dropped my interest expense way down as a percentage of sales. I look here, my SG&A went way down as a percentage of sales. My total cost of expenses went way down. And I look bottom line, my net income, which was 0.1% last year or whatever it was. And actually, I'm going to extend that out a little bit more. So, I mean, you can very quickly do some analysis. Okay. I look at my net income percentage is 0.03%, not 3%, but 0.03 compared to 12.2. And I can do the same thing for the last column. And I can say, wait a minute, they're doing much better this year ending December 31 than they were. I can do the same analysis. I go over, here's my statement of comprehensive income, which starts with net income. So that's not an income statement. That's not a good one to start with. But then I go over here, I have my balance sheet. I can do the same vertical analysis. Only this time my 100% number is total assets. Or if I want to do my debt ratio, I have to go down here and say, I don't see total liabilities. I have to make a calculation. If I want to do a debt to asset ratio, I'm going to have to total, let's do a sum here of all of this stuff up to current liabilities. And then I'll copy this over here. So now I've calculated my total liabilities because it didn't give me that. I could have done the same thing, 11 million minus 2.5 million, I get to 8.5, or 12 million minus 1.7, get to 10.287. I could have done the same thing. So now if I want a debt to asset ratio, I equal that slash my total liabilities and shareholder equity is the same. I'll do that. I'll do that over there. So I went from a debt ratio of 85%, change it to percent, from 85%, 85.7 to 77%. So my debt ratio is reduced, my equity ratio is greater. Again, you're doing this analysis and it's telling a story. You are now a storyteller. Another question? Go for it. What's on your mind? Or was that hand up from before? Okay, any other questions? Like I say, this recording I will be posting tonight. Helpful, informative, or still not clear? How about some feedback? Get a thumbs up, I'll take thumbs up.
Good to go.
Thank you, Ian.
Very helpful and informative.
Honored and appreciative, thank you. By the way, I will post some other resources for analysis because I didn't see them when I was looking before. I'll put that in the discussion when I post this tonight as well. Other thoughts or comments? Anybody coming tomorrow night? Still a chance. 5:45. Chicken dinner and some insightful alumni. We'll look forward to catching up with you. If you need anything else, feel free to use my Calendly for daytime appointments, email, text. Email is probably best if you want to set up a time. I'm available evenings, weekends. I tell you, you can call me 24/7 because if it's 2 a.m, my phone is sitting in my office and I might answer it if I'm in the office with my phone. If not, don't worry about calling after hours. So don't be offended to call at 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. So feel free to reach out. Like I say, I'm pretty good about returning emails, but if I can help in any way, please do reach out and I'm at your service. On that note, I will cease the recording.